From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, welcome to Space Brains, the show where we joy watch sci-fi movies and tell you what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya. Tonight we're talking about The Thing. Now this is the 2011 version, so consider this your spoiler warning.
So if you haven't seen this movie yet, go back and watch it. It's a 2011 movie with Joel Edgerton, and it's really quite good, so watch it and join us again as we talk about it.
So, Surrey, what was your number one takeaway from The Thing?
My number one takeaway from The Thing was that body horror is always done best, I think, with practical effects as much as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
And the reason I say that is they originally did practical effects in this movie, but then it got overwritten with digital. And the digital effects are pretty good, but there's something about that original 1982 thing where you see that bubbling, gooping, claws and fur matted tearing out. There's something very visceral about the way light and reflections and shadows hit those real objects as opposed to the digital objects.
Yeah,
Having said that, they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with practical effects. And that was the thing we talked about previously with the Netflix, the Dark Crystal TV show. That they talked. I know the producer of that talked a lot about, that in making that they wanted to keep a lot of that puppetry, of course, in there, but then also mix in a bit of the digital effects. So that good old Jim Henson puppetry, but then mix it with some digital. And I think that always works well. Whereas if you go too much digital, it always doesn't quite work, does it? You need a bit of that. You need it to look like we could touch it, lick it, feel it, and feel it coming towards us, I think, for it to fully work. Don't you reckon?
Yeah, I think the subtle art of mixing the two is not yet quite been perfected.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good efforts and very close sort of movies of it. And in a way, Jurassic Park back in 1994, I want to say.
92, 93.
I'll probably get toasted by some Jurassic Park fan, but
yeah.
That movie famously brought in these dinosaur computer graphics.
Yeah.
And they also have a very heavily relied on animatronics. So the Triceratops was entirely a big Jabba the Hutt style latex device. But obviously the T-Rex, which famously ate the lawyer out of the toilet, was a computer generated model. And since then, I think everyone's been trying to get that right mix where it becomes a seamless melding. And I Am Mother, I think, has been the best. I thought that was entirely practical effects.
Yeah, me too.
And isn't it funny that in the past you'd sort of go, oh, I can tell that's a model.
Yeah.
And you'd be disappointed that it wasn't computers. And now it's like, that's sort of, I think that's computer graphics. And you go, nope, model.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. You think, I swear that looks so realistic. No, it's a computer.
Yep.
So, yeah, I Am Mother did a really great mixing there of that robot suit with computer overlays to make it work properly. And this movie, The Thing, it's a little bit older, it I think would have benefited from leaving in just a little bit more of the slime and the goop and the intestines and so forth. They had a little bit in there, which is quite good. but maybe a slightly stronger mix towards the practical. That's my takeaway here. It yeah, I've run out of things to say on that. But so tell me though, is this hope? No, surely not. Warning or an experiment?
Well, it's got to be a warning, doesn't it? Isn't it warning, warning, warning for this one? Because it's literally, you know, these dudes find the thing or find an alien spacecraft, find the alien, dig it out of the ice, and then they want to straight away, like, get it out, don't they? They want to kind of like, you know, find out what it is. So it's kind of like, to me, just a total warning. It's just warning people, you know, where you know, when you go looking for these things, this is what you're going to find, which is like murderous death from a creature from outer space. You know, that's, I mean, I've seen both versions of this, and this is a really good version of this story, and it's just such a simple story, isn't it? You know, like you know, Save the Cat with Blake Schneider, and he talks about that idea of like cavemen. This is really cavemen story, isn't it? So simple. It's like, go into the cave and there's something scary in the cave that can just totally annihilate a human. It's just a warning to me. Like, it's just a pure warning story.
Yeah, it's the you know, poking your nose where it doesn't belong. It's the magician's apprentice playing with forces that are beyond your knowledge.
And it does go beyond. I mean, this film is science fiction because of the alien, the thing, and some of the things they do about, which, I don't know, you might talk about later, like in terms of, you know, preserving old bodies and looking into that. But it also just hits the nail on the head of a horror, doesn't it? Because that boss, he wants to dig the alien out, and he's talking about is greed the right word, or is it more, it's not quite greed, is it? Because it's not so much money.
Lack of empathy there. So, you know, where it's that thing where the Hendrix, is that his name, who gets killed right at the first dude, and then he's like, oh, we still need to, this is a very important science discovery, we still need to examine it, and I mean the alien, of course, and everyone's kind of a little bit shocked here, going, you know, we're all kind of reeling from the fact this guy got ripped to pieces or swallowed by something. Yeah. And your primary concern is being the first person to examine an alien. Yeah. Well, frankly, I don't know how I would be in that situation. Yeah,
I mean, it's a hard one, isn't it? It's like a car crash in a way. You don't know how you're going to react, do you?
It would depend a bit on how close it was. Like all those Norwegian dudes, they're going to be quite close. Like they've been living in Antarctic over there for probably 6 months minimum. I don't know how many tours of duty as such they've done there, but they would all be quite close to each other. Yeah. And having one of them suddenly die like that, like on a, you know, they're doing ice core sampling. They've got no interest in aliens.
Yeah, that's right.
And this thing suddenly comes out and, like, you know, it's a bit of a curiosity at first, and then it kills one of them. They're even if they weren't good friends, they'd still be, you know, very familiar. It'd be like suddenly losing something close to you. Yeah,
and the risk, even like brings it home, the risk of their job to themselves, and, you know, the family sort of aspect of it all and stuff. But yeah, you're saying empathy. I agree with that, but it's actually also, because it's not so much greed as in money, but it's like fame, isn't it? You know, that in the science world, I think the boss wanted to be, the first person to discover an alien and do an autopsy, and, you know, his name would be, is that the right word? Fame? I feel like I'm stumbling over what I'm trying to say there, but
no, I think it is. He wants to be powerful in his own world, and his world is that of scientific discovery. Yeah. So he's not looking to gain wealth specifically. No. He never sort of seemed to indicate, just think of what you could do with this, how much they pay for it, you know, which is one path that has often taken these type of horror movies. He's gone down that, you know, we can't just tell anyone about this. No. And in fact, when Joel Edgerton's character says, well, I got to fly him back to the base, McMurdo station, and just tell him what happened. As crazy as it sounds, that's right. You get that immediate feeling of that. You're going, okay, this is one of the situations where the scientist fellow, whatever his name is, I'm just trying to look for his name quickly. Station chief, no.
I call
Anyway, you think that he's going to kill him now.
Yeah, I called him the
That's-
boss because he kind of was the boss. I didn't actually get his name because the names. It's funny, this movie, isn't it? Like they give you a list of names, but they don't really. That's what it is. It's very much like a list. It didn't really matter their names so much, did it?
No.
Because they were just kind of
Dr. Sander.
archetypal characters. They just played their role. So that's why I called him the boss. It could even be an example. Some writers I know, script writers especially, they'll write like that. You know, they're like the boss, the girl, you know, the hero, because it's just like literally it doesn't matter about their names, and that's what this film probably could have had. But anyway, full circle, it is science fiction because of the alien, but it is also very horror because we have a character, the boss, I'm going to call him. Correct me if I'm wrong, you know, hit us up and let me know that I'm totally wrong and let me know his name. But, you know, he was after that, like his ego, he wanted to fulfill his ego in the science world. And so that was the crime or the moral.
Vanity.
Yeah, vanity.
That's a deadly sin.
Thank you.
We're talking deadly sins here. It's a horror. His deadly sin was vanity.
That's right. I had it
greed.
on the tip of my tongue. Thank God. Sorry. Well done.
Yeah.
Vanity. That was exactly what he was going for. His ego. I kept thinking ego, but I was going, that's not right. But he was running with his ego.
I just watched Shazam. In that movie, there's like the 7 deadly sins.
You were more knowledgeable on it. Yeah, that's exactly right. 7 deadly sins. Says a lot for writers, the 7 deadly sins, doesn't it? But so his was vanity. And you're exactly right. That example of they've gone through this horror. One of them's been, you know, totally ripped apart, and we'll get back to that scene later because it is quite a cool scene. And then straight away he wants to do an autopsy, not so much to, like, you know, save the poor body or anything of the human, but it's to, you know, again, get him.
I would have thought he'd at least come forward and say, "Oh well, we should recover him. We can't just leave poor old Henrik inside an alien.
We should get him out first." But no, you could tell he wanted to, you know. And this has been done, and we can get into it, can't we? We can get into it, but it did remind me a lot of Alien. You know, the movie Alien, which we've done earlier. This film's a bit like that, isn't it? You know, it's kind of like there's someone in the midst of them that is, they've got another agenda, you know, when most of them are just there to like live and survive and do their job. Whereas he was there, he has another hidden agenda, which is like to get this information out to the public. And you're right, vanity is his sin. So the sin of the movie is vanity.
Well, in fact, Matisse, the director, particularly said that he was thinking of Alien and the original Thing when he was making this film because they're his 2 favourite movies.
There you go. I could see Alien all over this, couldn't you? You could really see it in it, I thought.
Oh, yeah. Well, they had the female lead who was trying to do the correct thing and was trying, you know, and other people were freaking out doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Which is very Ellen Ripley.
Yes.
Yeah. So, look, I'm going to agree. Warning. It's in no way hope, and because there's no no virtue shown.
No.
The day is not won because of love or, you know, hope or teamwork or anything like that.
No.
It's just falls short of a tragedy. In fact, this movie is a prequel to the 1982 Thing.
Okay, yeah, right.
So the start of the 1980 John Carpenter movie has a helicopter with pontoon floats chasing after a sled dog shooting at it.
Right, yeah.
And then this helicopter sort of crashes, and one of the passengers, Norwegian, who can't speak any English, is trying to warn the American base with Kurt Russell in it away from the dog, the sled dog.
That's right. I remember now.
But they end up having to shoot him because he's mental, and they can't understand what he's saying because he's jabbering in.
Oh, he's Norwegian.
and then Kurt Russell and co fly back to the Norwegian base and find it all burnt out, and like they find a corpse there which they bring back, which clues them into this alien. But this sled dog is the one then that has spread the thing. So it is actually a direct prequel. In making this film, Matisse didn't want to redo it, and although oddly enough in 2020 this year they're supposedly starting filming of a remake. We yet to see if that actually gets filmed. A lot of things have been cancelled, they're filming.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Season 2 of The Witcher has been put on hold.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I was looking forward to that.
I think you'll see that most things are put on hold now for a good few months, because even Space Brain, sorry, should we let them in on the secret that we're not in the same room anymore? I'm in my ivory tower apartment block right at the top penthouse overlooking the world. You're stuck in your little dungeon.
I'm in a secluded space station orbiting Earth by myself with nothing but an artificial intelligence as my friend.
Yeah. Just remember.
What I don't realise is that I'm the artificial intelligence.
That's it.
And my friend is the actual human astronaut.
Yes, Hal. We hear you, Hal.
Plot twist.
Yeah, good plot twist. Okay, so what else have you been up to apart from orbiting the Earth to protect yourself from this deadly virus?
Working from home, taking the kids out. I finished watching Ragnarok, which is a contemporary fantasy, Norwegian as it turns out as well. It's quite good. And I have started watching season 2 of Altered Carbon. I don't know if you've seen that. I've read the first book of this, and it was quite good. The TV show deviated a little bit from the book.
Yeah.
But the essence there, if you haven't heard of Altered Carbon, the basic premise is that humans have, through the introduction of this technology called a stack, which sits to the base of your skull from birth, it allows your brain to, your personality and so forth, to be digitized so that you can interact in virtual worlds as one thing, but also you can actually exist entirely within the stack, removed from your body, which they call sleeves. So you can be re-sleeved, which is to put your personality into another stack in another body.
Right.
And in this way, rich people have been able to live for centuries because they can afford to perfectly clone themselves. And because every time you get re-sleeved, if you don't have like a really strong biological match, things start going a bit shonky. But if you're rich enough, you can get the, perfect biological clones of yourself, which means that you don't have any of these rejection problems. And they live for centuries and become ever richer and more powerful. And into this world comes what is he? He's essentially operating now as a bit of a bounty hunter, private investigator, but he's not really that officially. He's actually an ex-super, special forces, not a super soldier, but special forces sort of soldier who then joined a rebellion that wants to turn off these stacks, saying, that it's a perversion of humanity, this process. And so he's come out of that, and he's got a bit of a history of that, but he keeps getting, because he's had this history of being this special forces guy who were particularly trained to jump into new bodies all the time and what have you, he gets hired by rich people to fix their problems, and hilarity ensues.
Of course.
Yes, so it's quite good. It's very interesting. It's very pretty. It has some really interesting concepts about immortality, the human soul, virtual reality, and the way computers could be integrated. There's an artificial intelligent hotel that he stays at, which has like a Edgar Allan Poe fetish, I suppose you might say.
Yeah.
And good bits of action, and it's a very interesting take.
Yeah, I know lots of it. I've not watched the actual TV show, but it's on my to-do list.
Well, I should do it.
Yeah.
Well worth it. And other than that, I'm taking a crash course on how to write self-help manuals.
Oh, yeah.
For my, how to write a novel. So I finished the draft. I'm in revision, and I think I mentioned this last time, and I've gone through and discovered, as there are all of these ways of breaking down a plot and a story in order to write your screenplay or a novel, there's likewise a lot of analysis goes into how to write what amounts to sort of a teaching text, but like a standalone course in a book. As a teacher, you've probably come across a lot of this sort of theory in terms of presenting to humans, but this is kind of distilling that into a book, which is a little bit different again. So I'm sort of having to learn a whole lot of stuff, and so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
How about you?
How's your
scripting going? How's your
well,
coping with
I've got to say,
viruses?
with this whole coronavirus thing, creatively, it's sort of stumped me a little bit. Like it's a little bit hard to last couple of weeks. It's just been so much uncertainty that my time off has been a bit like, instead of editing, because I'm still editing so my short film, The Memory, I was going to put into festivals, and I still want to do that, but most of the festivals have now cancelled. So it's kind of like, it's a bit of a stumping ground of it. It's slowed me down. And then when I've had the time that I can have to edit, both those Friday, where I have a bit of spare time, I've sort of been trying to organise things on the house and things for work and things for school and things for the kids. And so, yeah, the creative things definitely stopped. When I've been writing, I've got I think I mentioned to you last time that it's not something that was really on my radar, but I actually now am thinking of writing a novel, and I've got an idea, and it's going to actually be in the crime genre, so a little bit of a different genre than my scripts, and I don't know why, but that's the one that's come to me. And I suppose I've lent towards maybe writing a novel from the point of view, apart from you, Surrey, inspiring me, of course, but
well, of course,
but also just thinking, well, if at the end of the day none of my scripts ever get bought or made into big films unless I make them, it might just be a legacy that I actually leave a novel, behind. So, but anyway, I thought about it, and then actually I got this crime idea, which again is not necessarily, a genre that I tend to write, but it's come to me, and I feel like I've got a pretty solid idea. So I have been nutting that out, like a good old story structure, just going back to the drawing board with that. I've also got the next feature that I want to write, which is more of a horror, a crocodile horror story. So that's sort of, I've beated that out. And so that's probably my next one. I just need to do a bit more research, both with crocodiles and with that genre of film. There's a couple of films I know of I need to sit down and just watch, just to kind of get my head around about what's been done before. And, and then also the idea of, which you and I have talked about, the vlog kind of idea. And so I've been nutting out some of the key topics that I want to do. I've been busy that way. But I think this last 2 weeks, to be honest, the coronavirus has stifled a bit of the creativity, especially the unknown of what was what's going to happen with schools, what's going to happen with society and all that sort of stuff. I think now that we're heading into probably just pretty much a total shutdown, it feels like what to expect now a little bit more. Don't you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. There's been a lot of back and forward and umming and ahhing. And the positive side of this, so from a creative take, is often when you're watching these movies about, The Thing, where they're talking about quarantine.
Yeah.
Or you're watching some of these other disaster films and so forth, it's very hard, I find, to even appreciate the sort of irrational behavior of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of think, surely people wouldn't do that. But again, you go in and you find people are abusing checkout clerks at Coles, and you just want to say to them, you do realize what you're doing is totally irrational. Like it's insane.
Well, the way that people in Australia,
and they probably froth at you and attack you back.
Yeah. Well, even just the way people have panicked by it is ridiculous. I mean, even when you look at Italy, which is like a month ahead of our kind of pattern of the virus outbreak, I mean, their grocery stores are still open. So I'm not too sure why everyone went into this meltdown of wanting to strip the grocery stores of all the supplies. It's a panic buy.
Another thing I find confusing. Another thing I find confusing is everyone on my social media, everyone I talk to has got the same question mark. They're going, who's doing this?
Yeah.
Like, who's buying 6 months worth of whatever?
Yeah.
Like there's going to be... And so if everyone's asking the same question, I have the real question, more specifically who is doing it.
Yeah.
Like I can't even. I've kept an eye on people's trolleys as I'm walking through, wondering.
Yep.
And I'm just seeing normal trolleys, There's no one there with like a whole box of something in there or
No.
cartons of whatever, And so I'm thinking if everyone's asking this same question of who's doing it, and I've led to a thought on this is that it's not that someone has gone in and bought 50 packets of pasta. It's more the case that Joe Bloggs goes in there and he normally buys a packet of spaghetti each week because it has spaghetti bolognese on a Thursday.
Yeah.
But he goes, oh, you know what? I'm not sure if we're going to be, have to stretch this out for another week or two. So he buys 2 packets of spaghetti and a packet of rice, which he would normally buy every other week. So you look at his trolley and you think, well, he's got 2 packets of spaghetti and a packet of rice. I mean, that's not much. But he's bought sort of 2 weeks.
Double his normal amount, yeah.
Or 2.5 weeks worth of some of these items that he'd normally buy. And if you get enough people doing that, sort of going, I'll just pick up an extra pack because I'm not sure when I'm next going to come in here. Or maybe I'm going camping or whatever,
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking that everyone's looking around going, who's doing the panic buying? The real answer is we all are, just a little bit.
Yep.
So there's not someone going in there just filling up trolley. I mean, I'm sure there probably are some cases of that, but I think by and large, you're not going to find someone with a trolley full of canned food, and dragging another trolley behind them full of toilet paper. I think you'll probably find that it's just that everyone went in and bought a packet of toilet paper, even though they didn't need it, when normally they'd wait another 3-4 weeks before they bought a packet.
Yeah.
And so there's 3 or 4 times the normal purchasing, though no one has really bought what would appear to be a lot. So I can only imagine that must be
the toilet paper people did. It looked like, I mean, we didn't, but it looked like people bought more than their fair share. You know what I mean? Like they did buy 2 or 3. Even in that one of those fighting videos between the 2 women, one of them has like 4 packets in her trolley. No one needs 4 packets of toilet paper.
No, I'm concerned about the amount of food wastage that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be massive.
You go through and like all the flour and all the bread mix is all gone.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it thinking, has everyone, like all those people who've bought like 20 kilos of flour, do they normally do any baking at all whatsoever? Do they even know what sort of flour they've got? Have they got the right flour for what they want to do?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to suspect that most of them haven't. And they're going to go, oh, I'll get it because I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. Only problem is every time they go past the bakery, still got bread in there, so they just buy their normal bread.
That's right.
And then in 6 months' time, they're just going to have 20 kilos of flour and it's going to have like bugs in it or something.
Yeah.
Because they didn't put it into an airtight jar and it's going to be chucked out. And so it's like just going to be tons of flour and other foods that are just going to get chucked out because some people just went a bit crazy.
Yep.
But anyway, it does give an interesting insight then because I'm thinking writing these sorts of things when you increase uncertainty, because in Australia we've always had a very stable society. It's can't imagine what other nations go through, but this has got this. It's only a small amount of uncertainty too, but suddenly people are, there's literally there's caravan convoys heading out. I saw it on the weekend.
Yep.
And people are just going, I'm heading to the hills, or whatever, wherever they hope to go. They're going to find a lot of other people with caravans there with them, I suppose.
Yep.
But there's this kind of doomsday almost fever going on, and I think I would really like to capture that. And so I'm really trying to think through this and watching how people behave and the sorts of things they say, because one day, and it can't be too soon because it'll be too soon, but maybe in 10 or 15 years' time, I would like to write something along this lines that, so from that point of view, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched enough of The Walking Dead to know that it's not the zombies that are the problem, it's the humans that are actually the problem, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I'm worried about America, though.
That movie, there's a really good movie, that Steven Soderbergh movie, Contagion, and that one, that's what happens in that, basically, that really rapidly with the virus spread, that it's not so much the virus that's really dangerous, it's then people, it's the exact same thing that we've seen, like their supermarkets get empty and then after that people make a really irrational decisions, and then the next thing you know, you've got like panic, and then people like start breaking the law because then there's not enough to go around, and you know, the next thing you know, you got this like crumbled society at your fingertips, you know, and you see that in a movie like that. Like I remember watching that. It's done very realistic, you know. He does it day by day kind of thing, not like the zombie movies where it is suddenly they wake up and it's, you know, there's no one in the city. But in that Contagion movie, it's more broken down slowly, and then it's just a free fall. It's a shit show. And you see the panic, and you see what's just happened here in Australia with shopping and toilet rolls and people maybe starting to fight. The other night, you're right, like I saw someone abusing Coles checkout. I also saw really bad road rage very close to our house. That was at 9 o'clock at night. I've seen people run into Bunnings and make like really weird choices. I've seen people on the train like look at each other a little bit really oddly, you know, because, you know, they're not white-skinned, you know. Suddenly there's like a bit of racism going on because of where this virus kind of apparently originated from. And so, yeah, you suddenly get a human like cornered and panicked, and you just kind of don't really know what they're about to do you, you know? And if that goes on for too long, their fight or flight's been running for too long, and then they're in trouble, I think, you know. So I think I agree with you. It's fascinating to watch as a writer and go, okay, now I'm sort of understanding what people, you know, I get that idea of being really super panicked now for a long period of time and what that might mean. A perfectly rational person might just do something totally irrational.
Yeah. It also highlights then the benefit of effective leadership.
Definitely.
Where, making good decisions early and providing feedback early, solves a lot of problems.
So we have two problems in Australia, is that we don't really respect our leaders, and we don't really, in general, we don't also like being told what to do. So it's going to be interesting if the restrictions get tighter here, because there's definitely a pretty big part of our society that go, no, fuck you. I'm not interested. So
unfortunately, they're the part of society who are going to come out the other end suffering hardest.
They are.
And it'll be a tragedy. But speaking of tragedies, this movie luckily averts tragedy by killing a lot of alien.
It does kill a lot of alien, but it does kill a lot of humans as well, really, doesn't it? It comes out pretty good, really, the alien, when you talk about human to alien ratio. I don't know about you, but at the start of this, I thought, shit, there's a lot of characters here. There's going to be a lot of death in this movie.
There were a lot of characters. I saw that. But yeah, okay, so we'll start off here with this. This movie starts telling us it's 1982 in Antarctica. Yeah,
good year.
And we've got... I thought it was interesting it was so specific. I actually had to... Because I was watching this on my computer. This great new monitor, big 27-inch monitor for working from home. And so I had my second monitor up, and I could actually pull up the Wikipedia and IMDb whilst I watched the movie. So I went, 82. That was when the first thing was. So I was interested. But yeah, so they're rolling along in a snowcat, and there's a bunch of Norwegians talking. It's subtitled. There's one dude in the back who's carefully listening to a little oscilloscope radio tracker.
Or for those that don't know that big word, like a beeping machine.
Yeah, the thing that goes bing. Well, it's one of those things that shows the ABC logo on it.
Yeah.
It's the sine wave on it, and it's sort of going backs and forwards, and he's dialing a little dial and listening carefully.
And the sound's kind of getting louder, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, and the curve is becoming less erratic and more stable.
Yeah.
And the Norwegians are telling a joke, which is a little bit off color about
a nice dirty joke, good horror movie
about a bit of sex. I thought it was a fairly funny joke. Yeah. I won't repeat it here because it's quite in poor taste. But there you go. People are about to get their heads and bodies ripped apart.
Yeah,
you can't really complain too much about a joke in poor taste.
No.
So they drive along, and finally the guy says stop, and they stop this snowcat, this treaded vehicle, and he says, that's it, it's really close by, and he sort of plays with it, and he goes, we're right on top of it, and then there's a cracking noise, and they go, oh crap, and the whole ice that they're sitting on collapses and they fall. And I was thinking, okay, well, that's just the end of them. The main characters are now going to come along as a rescue team or something.
Yeah,
to find
something
these
like
people.
that.
But luckily, they get wedged in the ice crevice and they turn on their headlights and it shines down into the dark. And then slowly, as the snow sort of settles, all the ice crystals, you see what is clearly, to us modern science fiction watchers, a spaceship.
Yeah.
You can tell because it's that sort of metallic gunmetal grey, and it's got smooth, sweeping curvatures and almost, you might almost call it sort of Celtic knot style designs on it. And so we know that must be a spaceship.
But it's really nicely done, that, isn't it? Because they're wedged, on the front of this snowmobile, looking down at this massive crevice in the ice, and as they're looking at it, we get a glimpse of the ship, but then it's like the titles come towards us, so it's like it's growing towards us, but it's not it's not so much the alien. It's the actual titles saying the thing. So I thought that was a really cool way of, and they're of course reacting like in horror, like because they could probably see the actual creature coming towards them, couldn't they? But they don't show us, the audience. That was a really clever technique.
Yeah, and the let's see, what we then
flash to
after these credits, we cut to what looks like I thought it was a probe up someone's nose. There's all little hairs and like bits and pieces, but it's actually this this woman. What's her name? Claire.
Kate Lloyd.
Kate, that's it, not Claire. Kate. If Mary Elizabeth Winstead would like to get in touch with us and talk to us about her role as Kate Lloyd, we'd love to hear from her. So she's a paleontologist, and she's sticking one of these what do they call, a laparoscopic not laparoscopic, endoscope.
Yeah.
Endoscopic little camera into I guess it's maybe a snow wolf or some sort of frozen dog animal creature.
Yeah.
That had been dug out of the Arctic tundra.
Yep. Kind of looked like a little dinosaur to me, like it didn't really look like a creature we know today,
No, yeah, it looked a bit muty, but still like something maybe prehistoric, not alien.
Yeah.
And she gets approached quite quickly by the boss.
Yeah, the boss.
So well, no, this other guy comes in. What's his name? I can't remember his name. The boss's underling, Adam.
Adam, that's it.
Yeah, Adam comes in. He looks a bit like a surfer.
He does.
I was expecting him to be like. He almost looks a bit like Paul Walker.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
But he comes in and says, "Oh, look, I work for this Dr. Sander Halverson, or whatever his name is, and he'd like to talk to you." And in works Dr. Sander, and he says, "Do you know who I am?" And she goes, "Yes." And then he says, "Yes, I've been told about you as well," and basically invites her to come and extract something.
Yeah.
And he only says that there's a structure and a specimen.
Yes.
And so
come and extract my specimen.
Yes.
But he's not seedy. He's just like, he's arrogant.
Yes. He's looking, you'll want to do this, of course.
Yeah.
You know who I am.
Yep.
Which is, that is the worst possible thing you'd ever say to anyone. Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Because you just want to look and you go, I'm going to guess a turd.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that wrong?
He kind of looks like a turd, doesn't he? He looks like a turd in a suit.
Yeah. So she, obviously because the movie's going to continue, she says yes.
And then we've got, which you and I have talked about numerous times, Surrey.
Yes.
But they actually do it quite well in this movie. I want to give this movie kudos for what they do here. We have the helicopter ride to wherever we're going. And we're going to run around all these different characters, and we're going to kind of get a little snippet of each character. And so we know a little bit about them before they all get slaughtered. Which you and I really talked about in detail for Predator did it so well. That is the benchmark, isn't it? We know Predator did it so well, the original one. And
Predator did it very well.
How does this movie stack up for you versus Predator in that helicopter scene introduce us to a bunch of characters.
It didn't establish these characters very well from a point of view of wanting them to survive.
Yeah,
it established them as being differentiated in terms of the sleeping Norwegian fellow.
Yeah.
And then the two Americans, one of them is missing his basketball team, the Cavaliers.
Cavaliers.
I assume they're a basketball team, he says they are.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, of course, it's actually an Australian saying that, but...
He's got an American accent, it's okay.
Yeah, and so we get a bit of interaction, and I immediately thought of Predator. But what they're missing here, I think, was a defining tool for each of them. So in Predator, you got, was it Jesse Ventura had like a really strong, Texan accent and the chewing tobacco. So you can immediately recognize him from that. And then, that was Blaine, the character. And then there was Billy, who's the American Indian fellow who was, looking all the stereotypical Native American warrior, putting
on the war paint,
and looking very stoic.
And he doesn't find anything funny.
In this one here, I think that they probably could have given us each one of them like a special hat, a little badge, just something so that you can spot them out. Yeah, but it was quite nice that they didn't go and say, well, I'm a paleontologist. I'm a military specialist. Well, I'm what the hell are we all doing together? That's got to be one of the most cliched scenes. They did quite well. It was very natural sounding.
Yeah, they didn't quite get it to the level of Predator, but they did. They didn't introduce them all, as you just said, which would be very boring, and that never works, as you and I talk about. But they did. They didn't also give us enough traits to then distinguish them. So it's a weird mixture, that type of scene, isn't it? When you bring in a bunch of specialists together into a room, and tends to be always a helicopter or a plane or something. Quite often it is a helicopter. Even you mentioned Jurassic Park. They do that in Jurassic Park. So it's like Predator, for you and I, Predator is the benchmark because they all have little traits. They all interact with each other. We know they're a unified team, but none of it is really cliched. Like, they're all unique enough, and we all then realize from that moment on in Predator, like, what each character's strength is. In this, they didn't go that deep. They didn't go the cliche of like introducing them all. They gave them, they made the scene a little bit more natural. So the thing I liked was Sam, who's the pilot, played by Joel Edgerton. He does talk about he asks her about, he actually, remember he says, is she American? Like, to his co-pilot, and then he nods, and it's like, oh, so because he's American, whereas it's telling us something like the rest of the people aren't American, which we know, but we weren't too sure, I don't think, at that point. So then he asks her about basketball. She doesn't know, and I was thinking like the cliche there would be him having it. I thought he was going to have a crack at her, like, try to like. Yeah. Have a go, because he's like, oh, I'm a pilot out here, I'm American, you're American, let's date, let's go out, let's have a drink. But he didn't, and so I kind of liked that, so they gave us a little bit of a moment between the two of them without it being seedy or sexual. It was just kind of literally a moment.
I think that was his sort of save the cat sort of instant sympathy, because like you, when he said, it's been 3 weeks since I've done it, like you sort of, okay, here's the bloody come on.
Yeah, that's right.
And but instead, he just sort of almost, I don't know, sort of childish, like, childlike interest about his Cavaliers. Do you know anything about the Cavaliers, how they're doing? And he sort of seems a little bit vulnerable about it. And you kind of go, oh. And there was no sort of hesitation, no sort of, I was going to ask you about your hairstyle and then maybe a kiss. But instead, he asks about his sporting team, and then when she says, I don't follow football, and goes, they're basketball.
Yeah.
And she just goes, I really can't help you.
Yeah.
He looks a bit crestfallen, and his mate makes a bit of a joke at his thing. And so you immediately get that bit of sympathy for him. You go, oh, okay, he's sort of a nice guy.
Yeah.
and he's just interested in his sporting team.
Yeah.
Which-
And that
which
you're
puts him
exactly
on that
right. I
sort
think
of-
just he's a nice guy. Like he's not just a creep or he's not just a seedy guy. He's there. So it just sort of sets that up, which is good. But as you said, they could have probably pushed it a little bit forward. He does warn them, and this is a good sort of like, time clock of the story, that there is a storm a-coming. A storm is a-coming.
Storm in 2 days.
They've got a couple of days to do their job and then get out.
Although that didn't really come up later in the film.
No, it did.
It was kind of a bit stormy outside and snowy, but
Yeah.
it didn't sort of really...
It could have,
There
I
was none of
suppose,
that,
eventuated to like lethal conditions, couldn't it? Which it probably would in Antarctica.
Yeah, because I was sort of thinking, they go, we're going to have to quarantine. You'd expect someone's counter opinion would be, if we are here longer than 2 days, we're here for 6 months.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
because once that storm hits, it's anyone's guess whether we're going to be able to get any contact for another 6 months. And then that suddenly would make that pressure of people, we've got to get out of here. No, we have to lock ourselves in to keep this alien from escaping. Get that tension really rising. But
Anyway.
I don't think it necessarily needed that. There was a good amount of tension there, I think, amongst the characters as we went on.
Yeah.
So they land, though, at this base, and they quite quickly, we see a bit of their base, and, they're out at the spacecraft, and he sort of says so it was some sort of maybe distress signal triggered when the survivor exited the craft.
Yeah.
And you just sort of left with that, and it's like, ooh. And then up they go, and they clear away a bit of ice, and in there you see some sort of weird silhouette.
Yeah.
Something with, you can't really make out, is that antennae? Is that claws?
Well, it looks like claws, doesn't it? Kind of, it looks a bit ominous in that way. But they also let us know that it's probably a alien ship's probably about 100,000 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would put it around about the time when humanity started evolving.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know if they're trying to hint there at something, or if they're just going 100,000 years coincides with, ice ages or something.
But I
mean,
liked
last
all
ice
this
age finished
because
75,000 years
the
ago.
plot was really moving. Like they didn't hold back, did they? They kind of, then after that, like with the fingers, they basically dig it out, and they've got it in a big ice block. The scene after that, she and the other woman are sort of sharing a bunk, and she's looking at the stars out the window, and she says, "I'll never look at them the same again," meaning the stars. And,
Yes,
because
no
now that
line.
obviously they've found an alien, and then, it's like as it says, like the next day. So they really pushed the plot, like as in, can we dig it out? We can dig it out. How old is it? It's 100,000 years. Okay, we got the equipment. Okay, they dig it out. There it is. Bam. Massive ice block with some sort of weird creature in it. And there's that
Dig
scene.
away a little bit of the ice to take it with us, not a problem.
Yeah, and they
But then
stand
in
all
walks-
around it, don't they? And that's a really
in
nice
walks the
shot,
boss,
like
though.
that. They're standing all around, and they decide the boss, he wants a
Naughty boss.
sample, doesn't he? And she rejects this idea. And what happens there? Sorry, because it's quite nice.
Oh, well, he sort of looks at her for a little bit and then ignores her, and then just starts asking about what size drill, and takes her aside a little bit after that and says, don't contradict me like in front of these people.
You're not here to think.
You're not here to think. And you're like, well, she is actually. But
Yeah.
what the hell are you talking about? But
I don't know if there's look, it's 1982 and she's a woman scientist. So the film's not political, of course, but, it's not about women in that way, that maybe we would see a film today really address the gender inequality. But, yeah, I really liked that. Like, it really set him
82,
up
there's
as an
only two
arrogant
women on
prick, eh?
there. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's sort of what's the opposite of saving the cat? Like
Well, it's kicking the
killing
cat.
the cat, kicking
Drowning the cat. Yeah, drowning
So
the
yeah,
cat.
because that's his real definite. Okay, I'm not a cool guy.
Yeah, it is.
Maneuver.
It's not quite probably as severe as drowning the cat, but yeah, because there is movies or stories where a character might leave someone else to die, and that would be really an opposite to save the cat.
Yeah,
He doesn't quite go that far, but he's an asshole.
this is the opportunity to establish that. Yeah, he's a bit of a douche.
He is.
So
they drill the ice, and that's a really nice film. Yeah, that's a really way of showing the filming, isn't it? That they sort of take this hardcore drill and they're drilling into it. And they're all standing around it.
This is one of my. We're talking about if we, we always do. I always spoil my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
This is not the absolute favorite scene. This is going to be maybe my second or third favorite scene. It's like it's a good scene.
Yeah,
because
I liked it.
We had the warning. Don't drill into that. There could be a problem. And he's gone, no, I am vain and I am right.
We need to do this now.
So they starts drilling in, and you got this tension, and you're like, it's making that noise, this constant, really annoying drill noise. And then you get that nice side-on view as you're watching it crack and work its way down, getting closer and closer to that black silhouette. And, it cuts back out to the top of the drill, and they're pushing, really annoying noise, side view getting closer and closer. And then finally it goes, crunch. It's like the drill really drops in suddenly, and it's like, and there's that pause, and you're almost waiting at that point for there to be like a groaning creak from the ice as it starts. As this creature's going to wake up, or something's going to spurt out, or who knows what. So it was a good way of bringing a bit of tension there, which wasn't a jump scare, and it wasn't bloody and gory, but it gave you that little bit of taking breath in, going, he's not doing the right thing. He's been told that this isn't the right thing.
Again, like you said, Ripley, isn't it? Because she warned them not to drill it. Like, we don't have the right equipment. Let's take the ice block. Excuse me. Let's take the ice block. Take it where we can look after it properly. And they never listen to these women, do they? In these positions, they're like, no, drill it. Let's cut it open. Let's look inside it. It's very manly, man, isn't it?
And I think that was definitely a bit of a callback to Alien, where the science officer, what was his name, Kane, was under different orders. He was under orders to return, investigate, and if there's any samples, to return them. All other costs secondary, all other considerations secondary, and that was echoed again in the sequel to Alien with Paul Reiser's character. Can't remember his name, but had that same sort of just going to get it back and screw everyone else. You got that feeling from this boss fellow here in The Thing, where he was like, we're going to get samples and we're going to do this, and it's, all other considerations are secondary.
That's right. Yeah, you get that, the arrogance mixed with, like you're just all plebs, this is something really important. So, and that's really literally what he says in the next scene. There's he does a speech, they're all drinking, having a bit of a party, a bit of celebration. And he literally tells them about how important this find is to the scientific community. And what he's really saying is how important it is to him, vanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
But as he's doing this, and of course they party. Again, a good little connection to horror film, because whenever people party in horror films, Surrey, we know what happens, don't we?
That's when the bad guy or the monster starts approaching.
Yeah, and again, it's very hunter-gatherer, because it's like you go off and you relax with your woman, you're having a bit of fun, a bit of mammoth juice on the side, whatever you're doing, and the next thing you know, there's some other freaking creature at your cave ready to eat you.
Yeah. So that's the pilot, the other American pilot, I don't know, Derek, his name was, is going off and...
Oh, yeah, she wants the special stuff, doesn't she? This is where she speaks up.
Oh, yeah, go get the scotch, yeah. And so he ends up going to the where the big ice cube is. I don't know what room that was, some sort of a shack.
Yeah.
And he's just looking at it, because it's just, well, why wouldn't you? I'm amazed these people weren't just staring at it constantly going, holy.
I agree. Why didn't they stand around it with their beers? I mean, honestly.
Use it as the table.
Yeah.
Keep the beers cool.
Cool.
So, and then one of the guys does the old, it's just a cat maneuver, where he says boo, and then we get a bit of a jump.
Yep.
And Derek goes, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Dutch.
But it's it's one of those things, it's a jump scare, but then at the same time, the filmmaker's done it really well here, that we've had that little jump scare, but then even when he turns, like where we see the ice block is dripping, and then it also cuts to the guy going to the helicopter to get the whiskey, and it kind of looks like he's going to maybe get attacked, but then he's back inside the bar, and then the ice is melting, and then we get the dog is starting to, the dog is like starting to eat the cage that he's in, the snow dog. So he's like, that's always ominous, isn't it? As in these scenes, is like with aliens and creatures, is dogs start, the dog wants to get away from it, doesn't it? It wants to get out. It knows things, and that's always the thing, that dogs know a bit more than us humans. They can sense something.
Not Hugo, not my dog.
No?
No.
Oh my God, my dog last night I'd just been asleep for like 30 minutes and then starts barking, and he never barks. So if he barks, you need to get up and go see what he's barking at, because he just never barks. And so you kind of like, but then I'm going out there and I'm like, God, is there bloody someone out here or something? Because he just doesn't bark. I don't think he would attack anyone, but he's got that really deep, dark bark, and he never ever barks. So when he barks, go check it out. But there was nothing there as far as I could see. There might have been the thing creeping over the ceiling, over the tiles or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the dog barking. You turn your back for a moment, and then kabushka, the ice cube exploded out, and we don't really get a look at it. It's sort of got appendages and like a hook or something, and it scampers up through the ceiling, through the roof, as you'd expect. And this guy, he goes charging back in and says, "Oh, holy crap, it's woken up," and everyone sort of doesn't believe him there. And I thought we were going to get one of those scenes of, you've just been drinking too much. Which is, because initially they're like, don't joke about this, but they do go out and have a look, and they're just standing around this empty ice cube. Yeah. And looking at the ceiling. And so they split up to go searching.
Of course, another bad mistake, split up.
Well, this is straight out of Alien, isn't it? Where they, the little creature bursts out of, I can't remember that guy's name. His chest. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah. No, it escapes me. I should have remembered. It bursts out of the chest in there. So they're thinking they're looking for like a little thing. But this is what surprised me. They saw the size of this thing. Yeah. And it jumped up and smashed through the boom. They're like this ceiling. Big, heavy timber has broken and fallen down. I would not be looking around just like, with your torches. Just, where is this thing? Yeah. That's right.
Come over here. Come on. Jeepers.
Terrify me. But yeah, so they go looking, and they find that the dog has chewed its way out of the cage, and there's just a bloody smear where it was.
When they see the helicopters open, the door of the helicopters open, so they kind of creep in there, but there's nothing in there.
Nothing in there. And finally there's two of them. Yep. Who are they? Olav and Henrik. Looking, and they hear some noises, and they see something moving under one of the cabins, and so they go up and they shine the torch, and you can sort of see in there. To me, it looked like a cockroach. Yeah, like a big shiny, nasty cockroach.
It did, didn't it?
And it shoots some horrible claw thing out through Henrik's chest and drags him in, and he has that moment where he's sort of holding on, and then he gets pulled in and starts getting consumed. And Olav is going a little bit mental and shouting, and everyone else comes running over, and they're shooting guns. I don't know why they've got guns. Like, there's nothing to shoot in Antarctica, but they've got guns.
They've got guns.
And they're shooting.
It's 1982. They've got guns, all right?
Yeah, like, I can understand if they're in the North Pole or Alaska, because you've got polar bears. Yep. In the south, you've got penguins.
Well, they've also got grenades, don't they? Later we find out, but
Yeah, grenades. That's. I'm not sure why. Okay, you could sort of go, little pistol handgun thing, maybe.
Just in case.
Maybe like you got to put a dog down or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're shooting, and it's not doing much, and this thing smashes up through the floor into the hut, and they chuck some petrol on and light it on fire and bushka, and then you get this really cool scene where these hooked like praying mantis type scythe claws go smashing out through the timber in various places, and it screams, and then finally it just goes clump,
collapses
and drops to the ground, and they put the fire out, and that's where we move into that scene where the boss is saying that they need to autopsy the alien, and yes, it's terrible that Henrik died. Yes, of course we will, look after him, but this is too important. And I guess some of the other guys sort of agree, and they go, yeah. And I'd have to agree as well. As terrible it was that this guy died, it's a freaking alien that killed him. It's not like a mad dog or a crazed penguin. It was
I suppose if you think about what they just went through, if you went, because they like burn it and they see it and they see his body and all that sort of stuff. And, every day people don't, I don't see dead bodies. That would be pretty horrific. And plus you would have had all that adrenaline and stuff. So then to like drag it all the way back inside, I don't know, you'd be, I think I'd be pretty inclined to put a blanket over it for the night and just say, okay, we're going to deal with that in the morning. Like make sure it's dead. As you said before, the cockroach is dead, and then probably just leave it for the morning,
That's what always gets me in these things. My thought would be, I don't know what this thing's capable is. Like we burnt it and it fell down, stopped moving. I don't know what that means. But they pull it up and they pop it open and it's suitably sort of noisome, and someone heads out and has a bit of a chuck, and but they find that Henrik inside, and they cut open this little sack that he's in, and he looks all sort of a little bit translucent, like he's all new. He's not being dissolved, he's sort of being rebuilt. And they find his broken arm titanium plate outside of his body.
Kate's the one that finds that,
and they sort of suitably find it weird, but I think they sort of put it aside and go, okay, well, we'll deal with this. At the moment, we've got other things to think about. And
I think the boss says it's as though Henrik was being absorbed by the alien. That's his conclusion at that point in time.
Yes, absorbed. And they
they take
they go to
Henrik,
it's the next day, and they're going to fly Olaf back and the medic.
No, just before that, but the pilot says, I'm going to fly your friend back, tomorrow, and and they say, what are you going to tell? And he's like, I'm going to tell him the truth. And then Kate and the surfer guy, what was it? Adam. They take cells and they look in the microscope at the cells of that's right, Henrik's tissue. Sorry, they take some tissues of Henrik and they put the cells in, and then when they're looking at them, you can see the cells are alive, and they're saying, well, that's impossible. And that's where I thought what you just said, like, you don't know what this thing's capable of. Yes, you've burnt it and it's collapsed. Maybe it's going to regenerate and come back alive. But they're like watching the cells, and it's as though the alien cells are consuming Henrik's cells, and you can see that through the microscope, but then they kind of like turn back into the human cells, don't they?
Yeah.
And Kate says that the cells are permeating, which is like imitating. And so they're very surprised by that, aren't they?
Yes, and so she's sort of, and I think this is what's playing on her mind when in the next day when their helicopter is taken off with Olaf, and I'm trying to find the name of this other sort of guy that's going with them. Maybe it's the who knows?
No.
Who knows? It's just some other dude.
Yeah, he's going, and he doesn't look well, does he? He looks really crook.
Yeah, Olaf is looking pretty bad and a bit nervous and messed up, and this guy's comforting him. And Kate, she's walking about and she spots something a bit odd, so she goes over and finds fillings.
Yeah,
bloody
teeth.
Fillings on the floor, and then she looks up and sees that there's like blood all in the shower.
Yeah.
And she's going, okay, something's really not right. And I think she's put two and two together here at this point. And she runs out and starts waving down the helicopter.
It's just taken off.
It's just taken off. And, Sam Carter, that's good old Jolie Edgerton, he spots her and goes, oh, we're being waved down. And there's this moment where maybe they're not going to go. And Derek says, so what are we going to do? And Sam suddenly goes, we got to land.
Yep.
Got to find out what's going on. And it has a note here saying that he was an American helicopter pilot and Vietnam War veteran who runs supply operations to the base. So I don't know. I didn't actually hear that he was a Vietnam War veteran.
I don't think that was very clear in the movie.
But maybe that was kind of his reasoning there, is that someone's waving us down.
Yeah.
We've got to take this seriously. Like, he's seen too many serious things. So he goes to land, and Olaf is looking, who hears, we're going to land. He's looking like he's getting a bit worked up about this. And the guy sitting opposite him says, don't worry, everything will be okay. And then his face starts pulsing, and then it rips in half.
Yeah.
Revealing a weird mouth thing inside of his head, and his body tears in half.
Yeah.
And 100 little flailing tentacle things go out.
That's a good sound.
And then we see the outside, and the helicopter sort of veers off and goes wobbly, and then flies off over a ridge and crashes.
Yeah, we see explosion or something. It was a really good surprise, that, wasn't it? Because you really thought Olaf was going to be the one to be the creature, and it was actually the other guy.
Yeah, I don't know how he got infected, but I guess who knows?
Yeah, that's a good little. It's a good. It's playing off the premise of the story, isn't it? It's the fun and games of the story.
Olaf was just nervous because he'd just seen someone get ripped apart, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
He was in a bad shape. So this helicopter crashes, and then Kate's questioned about, well, why are you trying to wave them down? What's going on? And she essentially presents her theory that the alien was on board the helicopter.
Yeah.
And and when she goes back and has a look at the shower again, it's clean.
Mm.
And she says, and the shower's been cleaned up, so I think the alien is still here with us.
Yeah.
One of us is the alien, and everyone's like looking at each other, and a number of them say, no, well, I don't care, I'm getting out of here. We've got to leave. We've got to do something.
Yeah, she says, like, because they go, we'll go to the Russian camp, and it's like, if you go, she says, you could be stuck in the snow patrol with them, and you won't even know. And that's what this creature wants as well. And they say, well, there's no point saving the Americans because they basically would be dead. Like, no one would survive that crash.
No.
And so again, she's just a little woman with little woman ideas, little women brain ideas, when all the men are saying, no, we're going to go and we go to the Russian camp, get help, we'll move on, and we'll live through this, basically.
Because the problem, though, is that, and I think you and I have understood this concept, is that little woman brains and little woman ideas turn out to be extremely good ones.
They do.
At least my wife tells me that, and I'm just going to have to believe her.
Yes, me too.
I dare not say otherwise.
No, I won't tell her.
Case...
A good thing she doesn't listen to this.
No one I know listens to this show.
No, especially women with little women brains. We're probably turning off half our audience now.
Tom Hanks is in isolation. I'm going to suggest he has a listen. He must be running out of stuff to listen and do.
He must. So anyway, the woman with her little woman ideas actually has a good idea. And this is where the other woman kicks in, isn't it? She comes up to her and she says, she saw... So what did she see? She saw one man clean the shower.
Colin seemed to be coming back from the shower with maybe rags or something to clean it. The British guy.
Yeah. Which look, I've got to say on a little side note, I loved all this tension that, like, there's nothing like, okay, there's a big creepy monster alien thing. It's going to rip you apart and blah, blah, blah. But then to know that it can replicate and one of them in the group could be actually the alien, like, it just really raises the stakes, doesn't it?
Well, it's that thing in Alien. You had the monster in the walls.
Yeah.
And so the group would stand in a room and all face outwards looking at the walls around them.
Mm.
What the thing brought to this table, and I'm talking about the 82 thing because that was kind of a bit more close into the Alien film, but this one does it as well, is they're looking around the outside going, oh, there's something out there.
Yeah.
But they can look at each other as well.
Yes.
Because there's something inside one of us.
Yeah.
Although I always thought it'd be funny if it was actually the other way around, where they're all going, oh no, one of us is the alien. And they're actually all aliens except there's only one human left.
Yeah.
And all the others are aliens pretending like, and they're thinking, all these other, I don't want these other guys to find out that I'm the alien.
Yeah.
And so you could end up with this whole, I would think it'd be a bit of a comedy situation where they suddenly discover, oh, hang on, what, we're all aliens?
Yeah.
Well, who the hell's the human? Is it the one that we let go on the helicopter?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
So anyway,
the
women kind of, you know, she's nominated this one, so she's suspicious. And then when she gets, she kind of comes out, and again, this is where I liked how the speed of this story was. Like, she kind of comes out, I think, to confront. Did you say it's Colin? And then then the thing attacks. Like it actually attacks one of them. And so they get out
the open and it goes.
Yeah. And then, so this is where they get out, which is a real good homage, I think, more probably to the Predator, is the flamethrower. I mean, why doesn't modern movies use a flamethrower? This is awesome, isn't it?
Tell
So
me
80s.
why does a research team have flamethrowers?
I don't know, and I don't care. Sorry, I just wish I had a flamethrower. It'd be good for this pandemic that we're in right now. Burns and people that you got the coronavirus. Flamethrower time.
If this was the 80s, then we would all have flamethrowers. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know. And they burn it to a crisp, which is great. And again, it kind of like, it squeaks away.
It kills poor old Carl.
Yeah, poor old Carl.
Yeah, that's okay.
And the thing with that is that it makes them realise that any one of them could be the thing. This is kind of like they all
also makes them realise it's... Because up till then, it was just sort of this... Her theory.
Yeah.
And... Yeah, there was a helicopter crash. Sure, that's really weird and dangerous.
Yep.
And she says she saw the, shower full of blood, but it's not now.
It's not there now. Yeah.
So
a bit of hearsay. Yeah. So, and then this is what leads us into this idea that you were talking about before. That then she says that we have to quarantine it. Like, how do you stop this? You have to be in quarantine, like a virus, and we need to test everyone's blood.
Yeah. Which is, I thought it's a little bit close to home at the moment. That wasn't the intention choosing this movie, but there you go.
And she disconnects, or they disconnect as a team. They're going to test the blood. Her and another guy, can't remember which other guy. Is this, he seemed to really get an affinity for her. Is it Lars? It's Lars, isn't it? Is it Lars?
Yeah, Lars, the one who couldn't speak English.
Yeah, him and Kate suddenly, it's not romantic at all, but they seem to suddenly have a connection, and they go off and they disconnect the vehicles, and he shows her the grenades, but he doesn't show the other guy. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, he keeps it sort of secret, and the other guy comes in and says, "What you doing?" Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
Just hanging out, being cool.
Yeah, we're just
and then Adam, who's been working on the samples, he steps away for a moment.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there's a fire in that thing that we see. There's just a fire, and people come running and put it all out.
Yeah.
And this means then that their blood test they've been working on is just ruined.
It's kaput. And so and
totally ruined.
Yeah,
and then you get the immediate accusations start flying.
Yeah, and with that, out of the darkness, the pilot and co arrive suddenly. So they kind of come out of nowhere.
And so everyone's at this heightened state of, oh my God, there's crap everywhere. And staggering in comes Derek and Sam.
Yeah.
Hugging onto each other. They're in and they're looking a little bit bewildered as they get a flamethrower pointed at them, and they whip out a flamethrower and a pistol or something. And
no, they have nothing at that point, remember? And then they get locked up. They want to actually kill him because they say no one would have survived that. And Kate, says we have to lock him up and test him as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the crew chief, or whatever his name was, the Norwegian station commander, he's like saying, just shoot him, burn him, kill him. And finally this fellow on the spot, Pedder, I think his name was, he just goes, bah, and sort of goes to burn them, and the Derek like shoots him through the head and pierces his flamethrower tank, and fire is going to explode, so everyone jumps aside, and you end up then with this.
You jumped ahead of a good scene, but sorry.
I did. I what?
Yeah,
what
the
scene?
scene where they've locked him up, but and they've got they can't do the blood test anymore, and then she says there's one other way to tell who is the creature, and that's through the fillings, through the fact that it can't replicate human-made products like fillings, and so she gets them to open their mouth, and she starts with Lars. Remember, again, this is like Lars. I was really like, and he's got fillings, so no. And then the next guy, he's got fillings. They've all got bad teeth.
Yeah,
and then she gets to
then she
gets to her assistant Adam, and he's going, "This isn't fair."
Yeah.
Because I've got no
I'm
feelings.
Get accused because I floss.
And so she tells him to go to the other side of the room, and then she looks at she goes to look at the boss, and there's a bit of a standoff, and then he goes, well, they're porcelain. So he goes to the other side of the room. And then I think the next guy's got feelings, so you got sort of like three on the one side, and then there's finally a last guy who's been acting a bit suspicious, and he refuses to open his mouth. And so he goes over.
Well, here's the station commander fellow who was urging his friend to shoot to burn the Americans.
So there's a bit of suspicion going on there, wasn't it? So then they say they'll go test the Americans the same way. And is it Lars and was it? I can't remember the other guy. And they go off to see the Americans, and the Americans have escaped. And it's kind of funny, isn't it? Because they've escaped from where they were, and the way they opened up the part that they escaped from, it was a little bit like when the creature broke through the roof. It was kind of all like the wood was broken back. It looked a bit too crude for humans to do.
Yeah, it looked like, because I initially thought maybe the monster had smashed in and grabbed them.
Yeah.
And so there's escaped, and I mean, it's a bit confusing, I thought, there, because Lars then gets pulled through the door.
He does, yeah.
And like just disappears, and this other fellow runs off, leaving poor old Lars to his fate.
And there's a good line, there's a really good line there that with them all kind of having this standoffish before then he runs in to say the Americans have escaped, is that guy, the station manager, turns to the boss and says, she's clever and now she's in control. And they kind of like look at each other, and it's a real good look of suspicion, because again, you don't know if these people are human or not, do you, at this point in time?
Yeah.
So the Americans have escaped, and while they debate, they hear breaking in, so they're like, oh, the Americans are coming, and we're getting the impression that the Americans are not Americans, they're probably aliens. There is, like you were just starting to say, there's a big confrontation. The American shoots one of them down, there's an explosion. One of them tries to do the flamethrower, but the pilot overtakes him. And really what happens is the Americans take control of the situation. And they're kind of like
everyone into that room.
Yanking everyone into the room. And as they're yanking them into the room, the station master, his arm gets ripped off. And it becomes a spider crab-like alien creature that kind of like goes crawling along the floor and the ceiling and everything, doesn't it?
It tongue kisses.
It does, doesn't it?
The guy from Game of Thrones.
Yes, again, very much alien-like, isn't it? Because it kind of like sucks onto his mouth, and
it looks like it's like pumping itself into him.
That's gross.
It was just a little bit unpleasant to watch.
It was, and he can't he's instantly paralyzed or something. It's very much like the face hugger. So. There's a shoot off, and the co-pilot gets stabbed with that claw thing, because then the body part of the thing is kind of
great
opened
scene.
up. Yeah, it's a really good scene.
As this guy, he doesn't just sort of, it does the worst thing. So when Juliet changed, and the guy in the helicopter, they kind of ripped open and just sort of revealed weird teeth and stuff. Whereas this guy, he falls onto his back, and initially a tentacle shoots out of his chest and like rips Adam's spleen out or something terrible, and rips some other dude apart, and then he starts smashing things, and a couple of people run for it, and the Americans pull the pool table over and hide behind it.
Yeah.
But the really terrifying part of this one here is that his other arm falls off and runs away as well, which is quite terrible.
Yeah.
But then he sort of does his arm arching backwards and grows bits, and he's sort of this weird sort of upside down. He's using his head upside down, which is very disturbing in the way it did it. And it crawled over top of Adam and rubbed right up against him, rubbed his face. And that I found there was something very unsettling about the way he kind of rubbed up against him and turned his head. And I thought he was going to like kiss him or something, you know. But then their faces stuck together.
Yeah.
And
it's gross.
And then he dragged his body off in a very alien and unnatural way. You know, it's not like a monster has killed someone and dragged them off. It's just
And it reminded me a bit of like The Exorcism, you know, like it was a bit like poltergeisty and supernatural. And yeah, you're exactly right. It was disturbing and not natural. And when their faces, like he rubs his face, the alien rubs the face up, you see the faces kind of join, you know, they're slowly kind of mold together, and Adam's like screaming away, and it's, you know, but within a few
stretching out. And
within a few seconds, they're this two-headed monster, you know, like it's very creepy. And then, but at the same time, the alien is firing off this launching spear thing that stabs the co-pilot in the heart and probably puts some poison in him or something. And the other guy, with the Game of Thrones guy, you know, he's being sucked in with the face hugger. So it's all really terrifying.
Stuff moving under his skin. Yeah,
and they managed to burn it a bit, and it escapes out of the room. And at the same time, the boss, good old, what's his name? The boss,
Sander.
Yeah, Sanders he ran out of the room, so he escaped. And
Colin went out the other way.
Yeah. The co-captain then does die, and she has to burn him. And yeah, Adam, the lab assistant, is then like carried away as this two-headed monster kind of thing. So basically then Sam and Kate are just, their mission is we've got to find it and we've got to kill it.
Yeah, and they go along, and Sam has got an axe. And I saw them with an axe, and I was like, I'm not sure what you intend to do with that, because one, you probably don't want to splatter it all over you because you'll get infected by it, and two, doesn't seem to mind having bits of it chopped off. And sure enough, we get what I swear must be an Evil Dead homage.
Yeah.
You've seen particularly Evil Dead 2,
yes,
where there's the scuttling sound, and it's like they quickly look over to this wall, that wall, scuttle, scuttle, this wall, that wall.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing they could have done to make it more pronounced would have been to have his ear twitching as he heard the sounds. But then there's this little hand, the guy's hand that had come off and become its own little creature, jumps in and he hits it with an axe and chops it in two.
Yep.
And then there's two bits scurrying about, which, you know, rejoin themselves, and Kate burns it. And they get... Why they get separated? Because he then picks up like a broom handle, and they go in looking some other rooms.
And we see it's kind of like there's an intercut bit, because again, you didn't know maybe the boss was an alien, but then there's a moment where the boss is hiding and the creature comes in, you know, it's a good old sort of monster shadow comes across him, and yeah, the boss gets attacked and killed. And the monster seems to then attack the two of them after they burn that little spider bit. And Sam, the pilot, he runs off another way, doesn't he? And the two
he
human
runs off through the kitchen.
Yeah, he kind of gets to the kitchen, and the two human head then slowly creeps towards him, and he's kind of like earing him. You know, what's the word? He's walking kind of backwards. Creeping backwards more and more into the shadow, and this creature comes into the kitchen, so they're in the same room, and he's kind of leaning back across the shelves, and it's coming closer and closer, and there's a really lovely bit of acting there from Joel Edgerton where he's kind of edged himself back again like a human coming towards a corner, and this creature's slowly coming to it. You know he's going to eventually, you know, attack him, see him. He's not turning back. And what I meant by acting was he's standing there, and there's a moment where then like he's got his axe, and that's right. He got a knife, didn't he, from the kitchen?
Yeah.
Big, one of those good old big slasher knives, and it shakes and it hits the bookcase, and there's I really liked that, because so many of these sort of horror films as well, like they'll have those moments where the hero just stands there and they're scared, but they're not trembling. Like he was actually trembling, and the knife like whacking the thing, it's like a nice little tremble. So I really liked that, because it's kind of so easy to kind of go, oh, they're the hero and they're the main person, and they're going to, but he's literally like, no, I'm probably going to die here. So I did really like, and then it attacks him. It's a good, nice kind of like, and it goes to attack him, and Kate surprises us, doesn't she? She kind of comes out of left field and burns the motherfucker.
Burns it, and then Joel jumps up on the shelves and kind of dances around, and the monster bursts through the walls and out into the snow. But Kate chases after him and
burns it,
finishes burning it basically.
Yeah, it's dead.
And at that point, I believe we see the snowcat driving past, and they look and they see the boss's face.
Good old Colonel Sanders.
Driving off. Yes, Sanders, Dr. Sanders. That's Colonel Sanders'
I just
brother.
suddenly got a connection there, yeah. Colonel Sanders is taken off, that bastard. And
while standing over the Kentucky Fried Monster.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's taken off, and he says, and Sam says, oh, look, he can't get anywhere, he'll just freeze. He's got nowhere to go. And then Kate says, no, he's got one place to go.
Yeah.
And it surprises me that this monster didn't try to get to the spaceship earlier, but, maybe it wasn't sure that it was going to work.
Yeah.
Or something.
It was trying to win, wasn't it? It was like trying to take over. And but maybe it felt like at this point in time it was losing the battle. Yeah,
so they jump in another cat and chase after it. Soon enough catch up to the other snowcat, and they jump out, follow down into the glacier where there's a spaceship. Yeah. And its lights are starting to turn on.
Yeah, it's starting to come on, isn't it?
And they start running across, and then these vents start opening, throwing up bits of ice.
Yeah.
And it's like coming like a wave towards them, and they run. But Katie doesn't quite make it. She grabs hold valiantly, but Sam can't get there in time, and she falls into the interior of the spaceship.
She's fallen into the air conditioner.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, where that would go, but it seemed to just go into the spaceship, which is, I know, must have served a purpose of something.
Yep.
And we follow her then, and she's watching this spaceship powering up. There's sort of big things moving around and shifting, and I'm always amazed that these alien spaceships have so many moving parts.
Yeah.
When all of our transport just basically is the shape it is and stays that shape.
Yeah. And this is how they travel across space. Well, you and I have talked a lot about this on Space Brains, that, as humans, we haven't, we can't go that far with our current technology, can we? So we've got to learn from these writers of science fiction, I think, Surrey, because you've got to have lots of moving parts. That's what you have to have.
Well, I guess maybe this spaceship was designed to survive 100,000 years, and part of that protocol is to sort of close up and pull everything in and get in, turn to a nice little armored ball. But anyway, so she sees all this stuff going on, and she wanders through the base, and she spots, this thing comes up from behind her when she's there, and it has originally got the boss's face on it.
Yeah, but just before that, she's got this. It's pretty cool, wasn't it? It was a bit mystical suddenly, and a big blue spiral.
Pixely thing.
Yeah, and it was like pixely, very, very much, it was all kind of going on. It was quite beautiful looking and quite mesmerizing. And then you're right, that very much, again, like Alien, that the creature is actually right behind her in the kind of shadows of this part of the ship.
That was a real Alien moment where it sort of lowered itself down and
comes out and attacks her. And she kind of manages to get away, and she gets into the air vents. Yeah, and she kind of crambles on the air vents at kind of like close to her feet, but not quite there. And then she drops the grenade, but like manages to get to a safe point. And it's kind of then bursts through the wall, doesn't it? And it's right there next to her, and all its tentacles are like trying to grab her, and just every last sort of centimeter trying to get there, but it just can't quite get there. And then it disappears. And then we cut to him, and he's looking for her, and he's in the ship, and he's like calling out her name, and he's like looking. Then we cut back to her, and she sees the grenade, and it's on the other side of the bit that the alien had broken through. So she's going to have to risk everything to kind of get to it. And she makes a jump for it, and she does, and then there's a good old-fashioned jump scare there where the creature's on top of her again, grabs her leg, yanks her all the way back through the air vent, back to that really big open bit with the big blue-white pixely thing. And it's roaring away at her with all its tentacles and its multiple mouths and all that. And she picks up the grenade and throws it into that mouth.
I love the way its tentacles around its mouth turned around it and dove down its own throat trying to grab the grenade.
Yeah, it's cool, eh?
And then she tells Sam to run for it, and they turn around and run and jump aside as it explodes. And this sets off a chain reaction, of course, because you can't just have the bad guy die.
The ship has
evil fortress must fall down too.
Yeah.
And they manage to get out, and we see that
just in time.
Spaceship gets revealed. Because at the start of the sequel to this, which was made in 1982, it's melted away where the spaceship is, and they get out and they get up to the cat, and Sam Carter gets in, takes his lumpy flamethrower off and puts it down and gets in, and he says, "Yeah, we'll just go to that Russian base. It's 50 miles away.
We've got enough gas." There, yeah.
And then she's about to get in and goes, "Oh, I've got to get this. There's a flamethrower in the way, So she pulls the flamethrower off and goes, and she opens the door again. And then
she's looking at him eerily.
Yeah, and then she has to just sort of say goodbye because he goes, "Oh, getting what's going on?" He says, "You know how I knew you weren't an alien? It's because I saw your earring." And he reaches to his ear, and she says, "It was in the other ear."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, no, Kate.
Don't do it."
She flamethrowers him. and for a moment I was sort of going, is that really it? Because he's sort of moving, and then you hear the weird roaring sounds. He flails about, and she leaves him burning in this cockpit.
Yeah, and she takes off in the other snowmobile.
And the lights fade on that.
And she contemplates her decision, Surrey, and the credits roll. But this very much like a 1980s horror film is that in the credits, because this is quite a thing in the 1980s, in the credits, you actually get a little snippet of something else.
Yeah, usually the monster returning or what the aftermath is.
And I was expecting that. I was thinking, because it ended on that shot of her like contemplating, I was like, hang on, is she actually, like, is she infected anyway? But then we have this chopper land at the camp where everything's torched. And then we cut to a few more credits, and then we cut back to shots being fired, and Lars returns. What the fuck was he doing all that time?
Well, yeah, the Americans said, "Oh no, we didn't
kill him,
attack Lars."
No.
And it was never answered. What the hell happened to him? Like, why?
Yeah. He just took a chill pill for a little while.
He had to appear in the next movie.
Yeah. Anyway,
and this is the setup for the original John Carpenter one, which opens with a helicopter chasing a dog.
Yeah.
And these are the guys from the Norwegian base chasing the dogs. It makes me want to watch that original one again now.
It does me
just
too.
Just to see the continuity. Because this guy, the director here and the writer, they worked very hard. The Eric Heiserer and what's his name?
You said it very well.
Matthijs van Henningen Jr. They worked very hard to make the base look. They really wanted this to be a prequel that you could watch this through and then watch the John Carpenter one, and it would be the scenes of the Norwegian base you see in the John Carpenter original would match what was left behind from this new one. So he would compare his screenshots and videos of the original with when they were laying out their studios and so forth to make sure that it would all work. So I'm kind of interested to see the original again now.
Maybe we should make that our next movie. And just carry it on.
Eric Heisserer,
Yeah.
the writer of this, he is known for his big piece was the Best Adapted Screenplay nomination for the film Arrival, which is a fantastic bit of science fiction.
Yeah, we have to do that one day. So, yeah, anyway, the chopper shoots away at this dog, and then the dog gets away, doesn't it?
Yeah. Matthijs van Hennigan, he's only done a lot of Dutch sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The Thing and Red Rain are his only real director.
Yeah, the big
credits.
time stuff, hey?
Yeah, that's the big ones. So he hasn't done anything really since, well, in this sort of field anyway, since 2011. I thought he was quite competent at this. It's a bit of a shame that, it'd be nice to see him tackle, something entirely from his creation.
Well, like you said, they've gone to a lot of effort to make it a prequel, like even so far as to make the base look the same and to connect it into the actual story of the next one. They tried to do as much animatronics and realism as they could. That maybe got a bit overrode in the editing or the producing side of things. But you could see they were really trying, and there's a lot of homage to the 80s, a lot of homage to Alien. They tried to kind of make it a strong female character, which is not easy to do, but still, dabble with a lot of what was going on in the 80s. And you could see that going on there, so... Yeah, I think there's a really good job. So where does this come in on your ladder then, Surrey?
This one is a very firm and solid middle. So right there with like Revolt and Spectral.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Spectral was the one with the sort of ghost
ones, yeah.
Thingos. And Revolt was the one with that guy who woke up without any memory with the robots. And this, I think this movie, if you were to watch Revolt, The Thing and Spectral, they all they feel similar in the way they present and the sort of action and the sort of characters involved. I sort of thought there was a bit of a similarity in the way they are. Very
definitely.
sort of solid science fiction action sort of films. Quite good.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I think I really liked... I agree, it's right in the middle too. What I really liked is the pace. I just thought that pace of the story, they didn't hold back. There wasn't too much waffling to get us to the actual thing. They didn't hold back from here's this massive creature. They lingered a bit at the start on not showing us much, which is really good horror technique. You just sort of see some snippets. When it breaks out of the ice, it just kind of breaks out. They had a bit of freedom with the monster here that it does evolve, it does change, so they could show us a bit more earlier. But I agree. But I think its strongest point was just how quick that plot moved. And there was a lot of jump scares. There was a lot of surprises, like the guy on the plane not being Olaf, it was the other guy. That really surprised me. The plane crashes, and then straight away, there's a lot of suspicion going on. And then the next plot point, we've got the fire in the lab, so they can't test each other. And then the Americans arrive back. So there was no moments really back, it's nighttime, we're going to take a rest from the story. Like, it just kept pumping to the next scene.
There's nothing worse than some of these movies that build and build and build and take forever to get to the point.
That's right.
And then it's all back-ended, back-end loaded, where it's all the good stuff's right at the very end. It's nice. And I think that might be part of the affinity there with Revolt and Spectral to me, is that they both kind of introduced pace and interesting mysteries and things right at the very start.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
The only thing I would have really liked to see is I think they could have done a bit more on the human-on-human suspicion.
Yeah.
So they did a couple of nice bits there with some odd looks by people and over the shoulder, but maybe just one other scene before they had their sort of checking mouth fillings thing. But like one other scene there where they're trying to work towards this blood test, and they're kind of, you're getting red herrings thrown in there as to who might be trying to sabotage. Maybe someone's trying to sabotage because they just want to get out of here. They figure, if I screw this up, I might be able to escape and get out. But
that's very true.
You don't know if that's a monster, and they end up in this sort of awkward situation where someone confronts them. Maybe just one other little scene in there that heighten that human on human sort of.
Well, even as you say
cool.
that, what made me think of something is you could have even had one of them kill another one, but then realizing that they weren't the alien. Do you know what I mean? So it's like a false death. So they really, like when the Americans came out of the darkness, if they had then shot one of the the co-pilot had gotten shot then, and then it's like, oh shit, he actually wasn't an alien, like that could have really risen. And then it would be like, well, you shot him, maybe you're the alien, like there could have just been an extra turning of the screwdriver of that human tension. Yeah, I think you make a good point there.
But maybe that would have slowed things down too much.
Yeah. These guys are the experts here. We're just going along for the ride. So it'd be great to let us know what you guys out there listening to Space Brains, what you thought of the plot, and also where it sits on your ladder. So please let us know. For us, it sounds like we're pretty much in agreement. So it's in the middle. And we have talked about a couple of really good scenes. Do you want to just nail one in? What really stood out to you overall, Surrey? What was your favorite scene of the thing?
Okay, the number one scene that
just the number one.
Said a couple of nice ones. The number one was that finally the big climactic reveal of the monster, where that fellow fell on his back. The base leader fell on his back, and the tentacle came out, and like it was just bam, killed Adam. Bam, killed the co-pilot. Bam, killed whatever his name, Bonebiter from Game of Thrones, the Giant's Bane, I think his name was. And it's just like, whoa, everyone's dying.
Yeah.
This is so cool. Because often it's that case is slowly metering out, but that's usually only when you have like 5 characters. As we said at the start, there's a whole stack of dudes here. Yeah. And they're suddenly just dropping like flies. And then it does all of that. And so at the moment you just got this guy lying on his back, sort of having a bit of a seizure, looking a bit weird with a tentacle out of his guts. And then his body ripples and tears apart, and he's all that sort of backwards, upside down sort of shape that is just anti-human. It's like he's got this human face, but he's using his face upside down. Yeah. So he's looking the wrong way, and then he smooths up to Adam, almost like rubs his body up and then extends his neck, and you get that very 80s. I guess it was from the Nightmare and not Nightmare, the American Wolf in London, where the morphing of that sort of creaking, groaning, as stretching, sort of really awkward, rather than that Terminator 2 style smooth morphing. It was that sort of slow, painful stretching out of the neck until it looked like a really weird, totally alien but still human. And then it's just that really overly intimate rubbing of the face, and you don't know what is going to happen here. Like, is his head going to crack open and swallow him, or worms come out of his mouth, or it was a really gruesome, without actually having any blood and guts. It was a very gruesome sort of stomach turning, edge of the seat. What the hell is this alien thing going to do? It's just unpleasant. Very unpleasant. The fact that so many people just so quickly got knocked off one after the other, it really just made the scene so exciting and dynamic. Of because you're wondering, there's so many characters, but they just get all wiped out all the way down to, because by the end of it, there's just Sam and Kate.
Oh, excuse me. And, there is just Sam.
I mean, we find out that Colin later on, in that end sequence, he'd slashed his throat with a cutthroat razor. Yeah. But we assume that he's dead anyway. So, it's just this. It was such an exciting scene without a lot of gruesome blood, but it was still really stomach turning. Yeah. And that was that was what I remember about the original John Carpenter film. Also, there was a scene there where this guy sort of splits open and starts bubbling up in this weird, bubbling, mucusy, black and red thing started growing out with a wolf's face or a dog's face howling in it.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And so, yeah, that's one of my favourite scenes, I think.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think the ice, I think that scene's a really great scene because it does show the power. You know, like you just said, it rips apart these bunch of creatures. You've also got the arms drop off and they're separate creatures, and you've sort of got the face hugger and you've got the main creature in it. But it's not afraid to take on a room full of humans, is it? Like, it just annihilates as many as possible really quickly. So really does demonstrate the power of the alien. So it's a good, again, raising of the stakes, showing us, that how deadly this creature is so quickly. And I think if you backtrack in the plot, just that drilling, the scene with the ice, the drilling of the ice is such a cool scene because they all stood there. It's a crude old, drill. The guy's drilling down. We know that it probably shouldn't be drilling. Like Kate's told us that it's not the right time to do it. So it's very ominous. And just that drill, like it's a good old fashioned ice drill, but it's supposed to be then science. And I quite like in movies, in horrors and science fiction, when they do this, when you have, it's supposed to be scientific, but then they're using something that you'd find in a garden shed, like a drill. And other horror films have done it where, the bad guys cutting people up with, again, regular utensils that you wouldn't think of, or there is an alien doing an autopsy on a human, and it uses machinery that you wouldn't normally find, and so it makes it much more dangerous. And they all hovered around, and the director here really used very good tension, very good timing. That you had this massive drill going through this and that piece of ice was beautiful, wasn't it? Like, it was a massive piece of ice. You could see kind of the alien in there, like when you do look into an ice cube, you can't quite see through it properly. It's out of focus. So you could see this shape that they were heading towards, and you knew it wasn't going to be good. And so, again, the unknown there, that the director lingered on that drill that you didn't know, were they going to hit it and it was going to pop open and rip them all apart? Was it going to they were going to drill it and all of a sudden, blood was going to be squirting up, in the air, and it's going to be like alien acid blood. You didn't know what to expect, and they really, the timing was really there, and it felt a bit Hitchcockian actually. The idea of, the drill going in, they're all watching the drill going in, really close up of the ice shredding. The drill's getting deeper and deeper. They're all watching. They're reacting. Going back to the drill, he's drilling very hard. He's got to really put some effort in. Going back close up of the drill, going back to them watching, all in anticipation. They really drew that little bit out until then. And then when it popped and the drill actually collapses in, then you thought, oh shit, now they're in real trouble. And he pulls it out and you sort of has a little bit of alien blood on it, a little bit that they can take away. And you just knew it kind of wasn't good, what they had done, So I really loved that scene. That was a really great one.
That's probably going to be my second. And
yeah.
What I really also like is they put the little bit of alien in the petri dish.
Mm.
We don't see anything more of that.
Yeah.
And I seem to think in the original John Carpenter, they put a bit in the petri dish. I think they're doing their blood testing that way.
Yeah, they probably did.
Bubbles and foams out and sort of turns into a bit of a monster and attacks in its own right.
I think so.
And so this one here, they sort of put in there, and I'm waiting for something, but no, it's just a bit of a sample they put in the petri dish. And
yeah,
we don't see it ever again. It was that real big tension build up, and nothing came of it.
So what about the science? What do you want to pick on the science in this movie?
I was looking at stem cells. Because they're looking under the the microscope at this alien cells, and it's engulfing the human cells and then morphing to turn into them, or at least turn into something that looks like them. And the interesting thing is, this is somewhat the way our body grows anyway. Because if you imagine, we start off as a fertilized egg, like a single cell. And from that single cell, we have to have bones and muscle and liver and heart and brain, all these very different cell types with very different functions, different construction and makeup, but they're all come from that one egg. And this alien, of course, was much the same. It just got we don't know how it infected people, but it would kind of absorb them and then mimic them and hide inside them. And the way stem cells work, we have a number of different types. We've got embryonic stem cells, which are the controversial variety because they come from a fertilized human egg, which will grow. It'll differentiate, so it'll divide, so that we've got about 8 or 12 cells inside there. Yeah. And at that point, they're still just stem cells. Like they haven't differentiated into a particular type of cell.
Yeah.
So they're very handy because if you want to repair a brain or a heart, they don't normally repair themselves. A heart that gets damaged, like all of our muscles, repairs with collagen, which is not muscle tissue. So we don't grow new muscle cells to seamlessly repair damaged muscle. We grow scar tissue, basically, collagen, which it softens up and it gets a little bit better after some time. But when you're talking about a heart attack, it means you get a scarred heart, which just will never function as well as it used to, no matter what you do for it. But if you have stem cells, then what you can do is you can insert them into the damaged part and have them turn into heart tissue. And if they're your own stem cells, which is what you want to be using, they'll have your DNA in them and they will turn into your heart or your brain or whatever other sort of things that you want to do. And so embryonic stem cells they're hard to get hold of as well because it's not like we're just swimming in embryos. We tend to get them from IVF treatment. When you do IVF, you get a whole bunch of eggs and you fertilize a whole bunch of them and you implant some of them and you end up with a whole bunch left over. And some people very kindly allow them to be used for scientific research. But as you can well tell, it's a limited supply. It doesn't run to a very nice sounding future. If you're talking about a future where we're kind of creating embryos to harvest for our own purposes, it sounds a bit gruesome, and there's always that question of where do you draw the line about
it's a hard sell, isn't it?
Harvesting humans. So luckily, though, we don't have to do that. And in fact, we've got much more available sources of stem cells. They're just not as excellent because obviously embryonic stem cells, they are already just waiting to turn into everything. But we do have, for example, stem cells in our bone marrow, which are just waiting to turn into your different types of blood cells. So they're a little bit more specialized in what they'll divide into. And we've used stem cell therapy for a couple of things. One is for leukemia. That's where you say leukemia is usually a failure of your blood cells to form correctly. And there's a couple of different causes for that. And so there's a couple of different types of leukemia, but let's just talk in general. So what we do is we rip out your bone marrow or destroy it with radiation or chemotherapy and then inject someone else's in there. And it colonizes and those stem cells just start producing blood. And people actually have changed blood type by doing this.
Right.
Another beautiful feature of this actually is there's been a couple of people cured of HIV doing this. So you could well imagine you get someone who has a natural immunity and you take their stem cells from their bone marrow, you go and kill someone else's entire immune system and their bone marrow, and so now they've got they're living on borrowed time. But you go and stick this new bone marrow in there, which is now developing antiviral agents in the blood, which cure them of HIV. And there's a couple of people now who have been free, undetectable levels of HIV now for several years. So it's really exciting sort of work. And the final thing that we want to do is where you take adult blood cells and then you turn them into some one of these pluripotent blood cells.
Right.
Blood cells, stem cells. So this is where it's called induced pluripotent stem cells. So as I said, things like the liver have got stem cells, which the liver can actually regenerate from as little as a quarter of your liver left. So people with quite severe liver damage have had bits of the liver chopped out, and the bits that's left over regrows into the liver. But that's all it's going to regrow into. It won't regrow into your heart. But
Gotcha.
The idea is you take some of these, say, liver cells, and then you you add a virus which delivers 4 stem cell cell factors, and those factors then cause the stem cells to enter an embryonic stem cell state, it's kind of exciting that we're using a virus to change the cells like this.
Yeah, gotcha.
And this is called induced pluripotent stem cells. And these things, they share a lot of characteristics with embryonic. They're still not exactly the same, but they will grow into different types of stem cells. And obviously there's a lot of work going on trying to turn this into various therapies, because, as I said, you could have trying to cure your leukemia, for example. If you can create a bunch of these pluripotent stem cells and then get them to differentiate into blood-producing stem cells and stick them back in, you could use your own stem cells to repair your leukemia, which means you don't have to keep taking anti-transplant rejection drugs for the rest of your life. And then there's brain damage repair, heart repair, your spinal cord could be repaired. It just becomes, the possibilities are incredible.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
could also absorb another human and hide inside them to break out and kill and eat them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, you can't.
No, bummer.
But yeah, so that's stem cells, which really I thought I was reminded of with this thing.
Yeah,
movie,
right.
because I'm very excited by stem cells. The idea of using gene therapy with viruses and stem cells to re-engineer ourselves, rebuild ourselves using our own building blocks.
Yeah.
That's going into science fiction territory right there.
It is. It's cool. It's a cool idea. Yeah, cool, man.
And that's what about you? Was there any particular part of the cinematography or the filmmaking or storytelling process that you wanted to highlight?
Yeah, well, I thought a couple of things. I thought that opening sequence was very traditional of science fiction or horror. It reminded me, so I'm talking about, the guys, the dirty joke, chasing a sound and then it collapsing in. Just that opening segment reminded me a lot of the TV show like The X-Files. Like they had so many, that would be basically the opening premise of every episode of The X-Files. Like you had some person investigating something, or someone coming across a creature, or seeing lights in the sky, and then obviously the characters investigating that. So, and there's also lots of horror films and science fiction films when you're dealing with creatures, like they're not the main characters, they're not going to be in the rest of the story, but they're the ones that kind of like discover the creature. So that was a really cool way. I liked how they did that, and also just by telling that dirty joke, it enabled a little bit of the boring bit to happen, which was traveling and the sound, to build a bit of tension before then they discover the creature. So I thought that was really clever. I thought the music was really well done in this film. I didn't look up the composer or anything, but I reckon real big kudos to the composer of the film. I thought it was really great. Very eerie, very tonal, really matched the tension that was building. I keep saying turning that screwdriver, like that's sort of a bit of a writing thing, but it felt like the music did that as well. So as we went from what is it to the creature, to the breakout, to the scenes where the creature's killing them, to then them being suspicious of each other, that music really, it heightened that for me. Like I really found that amazing. With the drilling of the ice again, I don't want to go into the plot, but the shot, like that, just that really close-up, extreme close-up of the drill in the ice, that was amazing. I loved that shot, and I think it's probably added to why I liked that scene. And then we also had a couple of really classic examples of like over-the-shoulder shots to give us that fear, that jump scare. So that good old-fashioned, at the end when she's standing there looking at that blue pixel thing, we got a nice over-the-shoulder shot that we actually see the creature, even though she doesn't see it. And that happens like 3 or 4 times in the film, which do create those good old-fashioned jump scares. So yeah, that were the things that stood out to me in the technicalities in the filmmaking side of things. So let us know what you thought about the thing. Hit us up on any of the social media sides of things, and let us know what you thought about our opinions on the thing, the 2011 version. I think, Surrey, we need to go back and watch the 1982 version.
Yeah, I think that's going to have to put on the books there somewhere.
We'll put it on the book somewhere along the list. So that's probably it for us tonight. So hit us up on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Space Brains or Space Brains Podcast. I'm pretty sure you could find us now, or at Gravity Undone for episodes, or on Spotify. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've found some way to listen to us. And what will be our next episode, sorry?
Interstellar. With Matthew McConaughey.
Goodness, yeah. I've waited a long time to watch this, yes.
There's some really cool science concepts in here.
Okay. And it is long, so we're going to have to allow a bit of time to get through it.
Yeah. So there we go. That's Interstellar next week.
Yep, the Christopher Nolan film. Okay, I look forward to that.
See ya.
See you later. Bye.